Welcome. So we start our wonderful 2021 conference with Sue. Actually, I didn't ask how to say your last name. Ninham?
Oh, it's Ninham.
Ninham, with Sue Ninham. So maybe could you introduce yourself first, Sue?
I'm Sue Ninham. And I'm a visual artist, clearly, and I live in Brooklyn Park in Adelaide, and I've got a home studio, and I'm a teacher, workshop facilitator, abstract painter, and
Ocean swimmer.
And I don't know, that's about it really. I mean, yeah, that's me, that's who I am.
That's always interesting to hear how people introduce themselves, so nice. So would you like me to go to your work?
Yeah, sure.
Or would you like to start by talking about one of the things that we're looking at today?
Yeah, that might be a good place to start. That'll get me going.
Okay. Donna, have you got one of the questions there?
I think I've got one of the questions.
Okay, cool.
The first question you gave me was,
what are you working on?
Sorry, Donna, I just interrupted there. One of the questions, the first one was, where am I working these days? Is that a good question to start with?
That's a great question.
All right. Well, mostly I work from home. I've got a really small studio in the house that I'm in at the moment. I used to have a really big studio, but then my life kind of imploded and I lost the family home and lost my beautiful studio. And so the last 3 years, nearly 4 years, I've been in a rented house with this tiny little Besser block lean-to thing. So it was a big adjustment for me. And I used to always work, not always, but my representing gallery is BMG, and I used to have a biannual show of big abstract works with Trudy Ann. But then because my studio became tiny, I haven't been able to work large scale. So that's been a big adjustment for me, but I think I've coped pretty well with it. So I've gone a lot smaller in the last 4 years, and also I tend to spread myself out. So I've got the little studio. There are certain things that I can do in there, mostly my watercolor work and some of my monoprinting work. I've been getting in. It's interesting that the change in the workspace has actually facilitated a change in the kind of processes I engage with as well. And I've heard a lot of artists talk about that. Artists have to be really flexible in that way, unless you're privileged in the sense that maybe you own your own home and you've got a beautiful purpose-built studio. A lot of us are kind of moving about all the time, and the work has to change with the spaces that you work in. So that's where I'm at the moment. I work in the laundry if I'm doing my textiles, because I can set my sewing machine up there and I can keep it set up there. My adult kids live with me, so, and they're both at university, so it's really like a dynamic, flexible kind of working environment that I'm in. Sometimes I'm on the dining room table. I'm just all over the shop, but it's good. So each space has a purpose for the kind of work that I'm doing. There you go. That was a long answer.
Fabulous. I like the idea of the laundry being your home studio space.
Well, I can have my
laundry
iron set up. This is when I'm working with because I'm getting into a lot of wearable art pieces, and I've got a business idea that I'm launching next year that I'm at the moment in the process of learning how to silk screen. I've bought a whole lot of equipment. I'm going to be designing my own fabrics and making wearable pieces. So
wow.
I have my iron there. I've got water there if I need it. I can keep my sewing machine set up, and it's not impacting on people. It's in a space where, it's not a problem. So yeah, it's really nice. I love that little space.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Anyway.
So this sounds like a lot of time. How do you manage the juggle of your creative practice and life sort of fitting together?
I don't probably.
No.
Yeah, no, I'm a little bit insane. I'm one of those people who's driven, like I'm just, and you can see me, I'm like that. And I'm really tired at the moment. I think the last few years for me have been really, really difficult. And then COVID hit, and I was in Iceland doing a 2-month residency last year, and I had to come home early. This is related to your question. And I had to come home early because of COVID, and I had a whole lot of things lined up. So I'm also a qualified school teacher. I did in 2017, I got my qualifications. I'd always taught at university and run workshops, but I was in a situation where I needed financial security. So I did my master's, and I'm really glad I did, because I got back from, I had all this stuff set up. I had teaching contracts set up in schools, got back from Iceland, and then of course all that just dissolved away. And I also work as an usher at the festival centre, so all the theatre died as well. And I got home, and it was really traumatic, but it gave me time to really think all of that through and work out what I wanted and what was my priority. And the art just kept coming to the surface all the time. And so I thought, well, I've just got to, this is, after Iceland, it really confirmed for me having 2 months of solid making time in a really, really isolated, beautiful place, working with and collaborating with international artists. I'd never done anything like that before. And certain freedoms that had come to me because of my marriage breakup and all of that. So I was just through Ninham, and it was great, but I had this beautiful lockdown and COVID, as awful as it is, it was really great in that it gave me the space I needed to reassess all of that. So the teaching has kicked back in again now, and I'm relief teaching. I worked out I didn't want to have a full-time job as a teacher. The teaching supports my art, and I earn really good money, and they can ring me and say, do you want to teach today? And I can either say yes or no, and I can work that around my art. And so that's where I'm at now, where the art is the priority and the other stuff is working to facilitate it. So that was great for me to have that time, because I tend to just keep going, but it meant that I had to stop and think about what I want for the next, I don't know, say I live to 80, the next phase, now that I'm free and independent and I can really concentrate on my art. So it's been really good. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, it sounds like you got a great balance.
It's crazy in the coconut. Like, this week I've taught every day, full days, and then worked at the theatre at night. The thing about it is that I don't have any job security as such, but I've made that choice for myself. I don't like to be hemmed in. And so it works really well, but it does mean that with COVID, I have to take it where I can get it. So at the moment, I'm really, really tired, but I know that any minute we could go back into lockdown, any minute. So I squirrel away, and then I have these blocks now where I can see this pattern will start to form, where I'll have these blocks where I can be really, really creative. But the other thing is there for me to have money to keep doing that, because money is so important for artists and really hard to make, particularly at the moment. I'm not selling much work. I sell little bits and pieces, but the big works, that's gone for me. The big, blockbuster shows where you sell big paintings. I don't know many artists who are still managing to do that. So flexibility.
Wow, you got a realism that's really
agile. Yeah.
Yeah, you got a realism that's really refreshing and helpful.
Is it?
Yeah. I'm interested to go back a little bit where you talked about when you get into your creative zone, like what's your practice around like say you're not teaching, or say you've set aside time for creative, how do you structure that and make it kick in when you need it to?
Well, I've just in the last, I don't know when it started, maybe about 6 months ago, despite everything that I've just said, I had artist block for the first time in my whole life. I tend to just be a maker. Like I'm always, it's my happy place. And so I've never, ever had an issue. And I'm a great believer. I tell all my students that, you know, fear comes into it and it's crippling. And the best way to move through that is to just do and not to worry about whether it's good or bad or working or not working, just do. But I had this period where I couldn't do, and it really frightened me, and I don't know what was going on. There's nothing I can identify specifically. And so I journal a lot. If I'm, you know, if I'm stuck for ideas or whatever, I have lots and lots of journals and I work through them. And this time I thought I'm going to doodle. So I bought a nice hardcover journal. I've got it here somewhere. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And I just a doodle a day, and I took it with me in my backpack wherever I was going, to the theatre, to work. You know, sometimes if I have a bit of downtime, if I'm working on the desk, I can sit there and doodle on the bus, whatever. And it just, and momentum started to kick in. It inevitably happens if you just make, even if you just say, it's like exercise, discipline, you know. I'm going to do a page a day, and then it becomes 2 pages, and then it becomes obsessive, and now I'm just like, and the other day I lost it somewhere, either at the school or theatre, or I can't remember where, and I woke up and I couldn't find it, and I was having an absolute panic attack, like someone had locked my arm off, and I was crying, and I thought, whoa, this is really interesting. The journal, it wasn't so much about, oh, I've lost all that work. It was more symbolic for me. It was like, I had artist block for the first time in my life. This thing got me through it and I've lost it. And I had this existential thing where, oh, maybe it's a good thing that I've lost it. I've released it. My ego isn't attached to it, the yada, 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 yada. But then I found it and I was really, really, really relieved that I found it. So I just make. It's therapeutic, but it has this lovely byproduct, which is that, you know, you're making beauty, you're expressing something that maybe someone else will connect with. And I guess that is what art is for me, and it has been since I've been a tiny child. Yeah.
Cool. I'm glad you got doodle a day.
Doodle mania. Yeah.
I kind of like that aspect about your printmaking. Like my printmaking's a bit sort of tight, but your printmaking's got a freedom about it that's, I can see, has come out of maybe doodling a day.
Yeah, I think so.
Away.
Yeah, I think it has. And I'm not a printmaker, but my connection with that, and this kind of comes to answer one of the other questions, which is the biggest influences on me. I have this new group of friends that I've connected with through swimming in the last 3 years. You know, in my grief, some people reached out to me and said, heard that I swam, do you want to swim with us? And they're all artists. So Simone Tippett is one of those people. And through her, I've got into printmaking. And I did it at Underdale years and years and years ago when I was an art student. But now with her, I'm really getting into it big time. And I love the immediacy. I am an immediate artist. I gravitate towards mediums, like watercolour's my favourite thing because of its immediacy, and it's dangerous. Lots of, you know, you make a mistake, there's no way you can fix it. And printmaking is a bit different in that you can keep perfecting it and perfecting and perfecting it. But the act of actually making the plate, there's a degree, for me, I love the immediacy of that you might try to be accurate with it. Say like lino cut in particular, you can try and be accurate, and there are a lot of lino cut artists who are really, really so skilled and they're perfectionists. But for me, it works, my modernism, you know, it works for me, that chunky, cutty, slipping with the tools, scratchy. Yeah, I really am enjoying it. So the doodles are now finding their way into that, and then they'll find their way into fabrics. And I'm getting into silk screening as well, because that ability to make multiples is really nice for me. New thing.
Cool. Do you want me to flick to some of your pictures?
Yeah,
Because you talked
sure.
about your wearable art that I saw an image of, and you also, it's one of them is one of your watercolors. So I think that's the wrong day there. So this is from your residency.
Yeah. They were works that I did when I got back. I had an exhibition lined up at the Royal Adelaide Hospital with the Centre of Creative Health, and it was for Mental Health Week. And I did I was using silk screening and working on board, silk screen, monoprints, and I'd never used acrylic before. And I was trying to get the acrylic to work the way my watercolors work. So these are inspired by the environment that I was living in Skagerstrand, which is volcanic, you know, black sand beaches. It was the middle of winter. We were having blizzards every day that, you know, meant walking from the house to the studio was, you know, taking your life into your hands. And I'm not kidding. So, yeah, I got back and I had this exhibition lined up, and I thought, well, I journaled while I was in Iceland and using collage, and I had all this stuff, and I started to try and transfer my journal pages into a larger format and using new materials. I'm a bit crazy, really, because I'm always trying new things, and I probably should just stick to one thing and master it, but I get really, really bored if I'm doing the same thing over and over again. So this was great for me. I was using stenciling as well. So some of those shapes were cut out of mylar film, and then I was using a roller and a sponge, and I think they really capture the environment that I was in, for me, perfectly. I look at them and I'm there, and I can feel it and I can smell it, and I feel cold. It's visceral, but someone else might not see any of that in them, but I find them really pleasing for that reason, because they take me back to that place and how I felt.
I had an international residency that kind of blew my mind as well, and I made friends with an Icelandic artist. So I see pictures of Iceland, and it definitely looked like Iceland to me
Oh,
straight away.
great.
Yeah.
And the Icelandic artist you met,
Haftis.
what were they like? What sort of a person were
Oh,
they?
fascinating. And the whole country, and the Prime Minister, he used to ride a push bike and wear odd socks, and there was all sorts of interesting things about Iceland.
I would live there in a heartbeat
Oh,
if I could.
wow.
I've been there twice, and the only other place that's made me feel like this is New York. I just got, and it sounds pretentious, but I just got there and I felt, I don't know what that is, whether it's past life stuff or I don't know what it is, but it completely resonates for me. And I would love to go back in summer when they have endless daylight, just as the flip side to the winter, where, you know, it's dark, you know, only gets light at 11:30 in the morning, and then it's dark at 2:30 in the afternoon at the height of winter. So the effect of that for me as an artist too, that lack of light, having come from Australia where we've got so much light we don't know what to do with it, it really, I thought, oh, I'm going to really struggle with this because I'm such a colorist. You know, my paintings are quite bright, and yeah, I love colour and contrast.
Oh,
Colour.
That's really obvious in these works.
Yeah, and but my colour palette is muted in these for me. And I got into a lot of black, like how many different kinds of blacks are there? So many. One of my favourite artists is Robert Motherwell, and Robert Motherwell loved black as well. And, you know, you look at his paintings and it's an exploration of the colour black. So that came out up for me in that place.
So how long were you there in Iceland?
Only 2 months.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's tragic.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I could definitely, it would be great to go back, and they have fantastic residencies all over the country that have various focuses. It would be great to go back to a different place, because it's such a dramatic environment. It's a small island, but there's so much variation in the landscape, that it would be really great to go back to a different kind of place, at a different time of the year, and spend longer. That ideally, that's what I'd really love to do. There's a textile residency there that I'd really love to do, that Guildhouse has a connection with. And I spoke to them when I was there, because I went for a visit, and I was working in textiles while I was in Iceland. And they said, oh, you should apply, come back. And I'd really like to do that and immerse myself in one medium. Do you know what I mean? Like to just go there and work with fabrics, and as opposed to the openness of the residency I did, which was basically just do whatever you want to do. I would love to go back and focus on something specific.
I just wanted to ask a question, if I could, Sue. When your residency in Iceland, was that after your relationship breakup? So you went and did that, or was
it was. So what happened was, and it was traumatic. It wasn't an easy breakup. And my daughter had gone to London. She'd just taken off and gone to London to live. And so I went and saw her Christmas time after everything had gone down. And I'd always wanted to go to Iceland, and I'd looked at residencies. I'd been looking at them for about 5 years, dreaming about it. And I thought, oh, if I'm going to London, I'm just going to come back home through Reykjavik and have a look, do a recce.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And like I say, as soon as I got there, I went, and it was winter time. It was really what I needed. I wanted to go. If I could have gone to outer space, I would have. If I'd had access to Elon Musk and a rocket, I would have gone to outer space. And I thought, where's the nearest thing to that? And I thought, Iceland. And it was like that. It was like otherworldly, going to it. And it was exactly what I needed. And cold, just like the shock of it.
Yeah.
And then I thought, right, that's great. I came home and I thought, right, I'm going to make this happen. Yeah. I'm going to do this thing. And then I started planning and saving money. And then I went back and did this thing. And it was really great for me. People deal with grief in different ways. Mm. But for me, to be isolated in this absolutely devastatingly beautiful, dangerous place, because I love danger, it was exactly what I needed, and it put everything into perspective. And I felt so small. I felt so tiny, and all my problems seemed tiny with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. No, thanks for that. Yeah.
That's all right.
I did something similar a number of years ago when I first started going to China as well, after a kind of a relationship breakup. So that's, but I'll talk more about that in mine.
Okay. It's like a therapy session.
I love this theme of choosing danger, choosing adventure, choosing newness. I think I feel like I'm with my people, like, I think it's a big part of being a creative, and it's really useful to hear how you've negotiated and incorporated that rather than tried to tame it.
Thank you. Well, it has actually saved me. It has save me. And I have to temper it, because I kind of can tend to seek it out to my detriment. So I mean, the danger thing. And I think that's why, I mean, I'm hard on myself. I don't see myself as a successful artist. But that's just my stuff. I don't see myself as successful. I look at everyone else and I think they're all successful. I don't see myself as successful. But I can't be any other way. And I think that I don't see myself as successful because I'm always like, shiny thing, shiny thing, shiny thing. And I don't settle in to be an expert. And but this whole episode over the last 2 or 3 years has made me real, and the people I've started to connect with, like Simone and other people, my people, the artists. See, I've always worked in isolation, had a family, committed myself to, all of that, and worked as an artist in isolation. And then suddenly I was spat out the other end of that. And I needed that. I needed that community of people who understood me and understood what it felt to be like me. And I'm losing my train of thought. But
I think you're heading us towards kind of collaboration as a concept.
Yeah, okay, good. And so I've the shiny thing I've always worried about, but I'm now settling into that and realizing that, okay, I'm not ever one of Adelaide's more important gallery directors once said to me, "Sue, you'll never be hung in the Art Gallery of South Australia." And that was like at the time. But now I kind of go, that's okay. That's, so other people will be. Yeah, you're right. I probably won't be. But I love the variety. I love the freedom I have of being able to do whatever I want to do, whenever I want to do it, the way I want to do it. People like it or they don't like it. And I'm entering this new phase of feeling quite comfortable with that. And I will die and no one will know who I was. But does it matter? Doesn't really matter. Does it?
Well, I think the first time I saw you was in the Thebby pub, in the Wheat Shift pub, talking about work that you'd made based on your ocean swimming with Simone. So
yeah, I'm spending a lot of time at the Wheatie because it's Simone. Not sure that that's a good thing.
Well, your work looked fabulous there.
Thank you.
And I loved what happened with the two sorts of works next to each other too, and even the way, because we were at the opening, even the sort of way that you got to have this live conversation, and we got to experience the energy of working together in that way.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about your collaborations and what works for you when it comes to collaborating, and what you'd continue to pursue around collaborating?
Sorry, I'm just looking at my notes because I did write something down. I've just touched on the fact that it's a new thing for me. I've not worked with people before, even though I'm a really sociable person. I've never worked with artists before, probably because they terrified me a bit, because I tend to make comparisons. So I was always comparing myself with other people and feeling not good enough. But now I've found this group of, and they are mostly women. We had a chat about this a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? That women it's a generalization, but women tend to collaborate well because they have, I think they're good listeners. They're good at compromising, and for me, listening is crucial in the little bit of work that I've done in collaborating with others. The people I feel comfortable collaborating with are people who listen well, and it's a real skill. People aren't good at it generally, and artists can be really bad at it. Get a group of artists together and all that, a lot of us are quite highly strung and and sensitive and maybe a little bit precious. And you get a group of them together, and they're not very good at listening to one another's needs and compromising. And so I tend to make connections with people who are going to listen to one another and compromise. I think it's really important if it's going to work. What else was I going to say? And generosity, I think, is really important in collaboration. People being generous with one another. I guess the two things go together. And I love collaboration through teaching. I see that as a kind of collaboration. So I've always done it, but running workshops I really, really enjoy because, well, no, teaching, all kinds of teaching for me, I see as a collaborative process. It's not me going in and imparting my knowledge. It's not just that. For me, it's always a two-way thing. I learn as much from the person I'm teaching as they do from me. So I see it as a collaborative process. Maybe I have been collaborating for a really long time and not realising it. But now I see that that's what it is, and that's what I really love about it. It's an exchange. Collaboration should be an exchange, I think. Yeah?
Yep. Would you like me to, I'll just pull up your screen. I think your wearable art images might benefit from your stories. Saturday.
Okay.
Is this heading towards your 2022 project, or are you going?
Yes, it is.
Cool.
It is. There was the studio that I was working out of in Iceland used to be a fish factory, fantastic building, and it was right on the point of like a little, there was a beach, black sand beach, and then a point headland that jutted out into the Greenland Sea. So amazing.
Wow.
And there was a big storeroom in the old fish factory, and at the end of every residency, the artists, because they were international artists, they couldn't take all their stuff back home with them. They just dump it into this storeroom. And so I raided the storeroom because I wanted to be as sustainable as possible. I hadn't been able to take much stuff with me because I'd come obviously from Australia and I had restrictions around how much weight I could take. So I was like a little magpie fossicking around, and I found all this old sheeting that had been left behind. It was clean. It hadn't really been used. And I thought, I don't know why, I just thought I'm going to make a dress out of this. And it was there was a fitted sheet, so I pulled all the elastic out, or not all of the elastic, but some of the elastic out from the edges, and then started to hack at it and cut it and made this smock, which is the picture on the left, that's just got holes cut, or slits cut for the arms. And then I went and then I found a bottle of Indian ink, and I'd taken all my embroidery thread with me. And this idea started to form. It was also connected to my collaging. So I'd taken journals with me and I'd started to collage, and I was making a collage every day. These rock forms started to appear, black rock forms. So you can see those on the dress on the left, these big rocks here. And I started to applique and cut and dye and dip, and all down in the bottom here you can see the colours, the black ink bleeding. And Indian ink is so beautiful. I love how it's sort of charcoaly rather than jet black, which really connected with the environment that I was in. Then I visited the textile museum, the textile residency. We went on a road trip, and they had all these big barrels of leftover Icelandic wool from the Icelandic sheep. And they said, oh, you can take that. And some of it had been dyed and some of it was raw. Anyway, I just started to fashion this thing together. So the image on the left is the front of the dress. is Icelandic for ice, and then on the back I'd applique land, so it's my Iceland dress, and the back I'd sort of you can see some of the elastic here in the ruching, and it's all hand stitched, and I was painting directly onto fabric, and there are clouds and mountains and fire, volcanic fire, and it's Iceland.
And a frill.
Pardon?
And a yellow frill.
Yeah, that's dyed Icelandic sheep's wool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I haven't worn it yet. I've kind of been thinking, oh, I'll go out in it, but I haven't been brave enough to wear it. I also made a cape to go with it. So that we don't have a photo of that, but it's got a cape that goes over the top. And I feel like Björk when I put it on.
Yeah, she comes to mind.
I'm a fan.
Oh, wow. It's magnificent. It's a fantastic representation. And I love the idea of you foraging and bringing together everything.
Yeah,
the residency overseas thing has got that element of, you know, how you're going to, and Gus will probably talk about this, but how do you get this work back? How do you make work that doesn't, you know, fill up everything? Like,
yes, it's really hard. I had to be very mindful of it and work really, really small. There was an artist there, a painter from the UK, Janet, oh, what was her? I'm terrible. I can't remember her name. Anyway, she did these amazing, she's obsessed with oceans. And she did these incredible, she went out on a fishing boat in blizzards and God, working, for a full day while the fishermen were hauling in fish. She was sketching with her mittens on, like she's a crazy woman. But she was making these big works on paper, and she just rolled everything up. Yes, she only had to get back to London, but then COVID hit and it was just this mad dash for her to get home, and she left behind huge rolls of paper for free, like watercolor paper. And then she said, take it. And then I thought, oh my God, I'll never be able to buy this stuff. So then I had to work out how I was going to get it back. So I came back with this massive like roll, big canister thing that I had to cart from. I had 4 flights to get home with COVID raging, but I just was hanging on to this roll of paper like my life depended on it. And I managed to get it back. And now when I make work on this paper, there's this beautiful story which is about her and me and Iceland and COVID, and yeah, it was beautiful. But yes, every time I had to go through a checkpoint, I had this bloody roll of paper, which was burdensome, but there was no way I was ever going to let go of it.
Oh, great story. Shall we flip to this?
Yeah, well, it's a good segue because paper is one of the new mediums that I've been working in.
Yep.
So I did a residency at Adelaide Botanic High School for a whole term last year, term 4, and I was given the task of designing a large sculpture for the atrium of the school. I don't know if any of you have been there, but the space within, the atrium space is vast. It's 5 stories high and huge. And so you can see the photo on the top left, that's my studio space. That window looks out into the atrium. So I have my stuff set up there. I was working specifically with the year 8 cohort. So they had a project which was called, I think it was called The Outside In. So it was connecting the Botanic Gardens, which is their playground essentially, with the interior of the school. So that was a project they were working on as a class. And then I was brought in to work with them I was working on my independent project. They were dipping in and out and coming to visit me in the studio, but I was also going into the classroom and connecting with their curriculum-based project, and we were collaborating together. So in the end, the kids, you can see in the top left photo, there are some images up here. There are some small sculptures. They were making sculptures that are about that size. And then I had the task of working on sculptures that were going to be big enough to hang in the space and not be lost. And then in the end, all our sculptures were hung together from this winching system that they have inside the atrium that's there permanently. Had to work out how we were going to hang them at various heights, and it was, the logistics of it were huge. It was something I'd never ever had to do before. And then it was, at the end of the term, it was hung. It was supposed to hang for the whole of this year, but I went back to do relief teaching a couple of months ago, and the whole thing had been pulled down. Yeah, it was a little bit disappointing, but they had some other, I don't know, they were having acrobats coming in for some school event, and yeah, they took it all down and threw it away. Anyway, it was interesting because they've got fantastic equipment there, laser cutters, and you know, it's all high tech. It's such a high tech school. So I got to work with the laser cutter. So you can see this ball, what I call the chandelier. You can see all these strips of fabric, paper that we've cut into with the laser cutter. And then these little ones down on the bottom left, these are my little prototypes. So I had 3 sculptures, massive sculptures that I made that were each very different from one another, and then the kids' work hung in between. So this one on the top right is a scaled up version. Now that's probably almost as tall as me, and there were 3 of those that hung together in a grouping upside down. So from down on the ground looking up, it looked like a massive tulip sort of thing that was upside down. And then the chandelier, and then I had another one that was made of lattice that looked like a massive basket that hung upside down. It was great. It was great fun, and I learned a lot, and I learned that I love working with paper, especially wetting it and shaping it. I'm not a 3D artist at all. In fact, I would always have said, oh, I can't do it. I'm no good at it, based on my experiences at Underdale a million years ago. But, you know, it just proves that it can happen at any point in your career that you stumble upon a new material that works for you. So it's great for me because my abstract modernist aesthetic, I can transfer into paper now and mold it. It's a beautiful medium to work with. I work with like high quality watercolor paper, and you just dampen it and you can score it and fold it and twist it, and then it'll hold its shape. It's just beautiful to work with. So now I'm running workshops at the Art Gallery of South Australia, this workshop that I've developed called Collars, Cuffs and Capes, which is the wearable art thing, but working with paper. So you can see that the Iceland thing, fabrics, textiles, is now finding its way into the paper work as well. So there's real cross-pollination happening in my work at the moment, which is very exciting for me. And I've just kind of stumbled upon it by saying yes to things. You know?
So you did end up in the Art Gallery of South Australia.
I did!
Yeah, so you told them, eh?
Yeah, take that!
Yeah, take that. When are you doing the workshops, Sue?
I just ran one a couple of months ago. It's with schools mostly.
Yeah.
So it's the education wing of the gallery. You know, they develop workshop. It's an outreach thing where you can go. I go to schools, so I went down to Woodcroft and
oh yeah, right. I'll get you.
ran it. But then the gallery also ran a full day workshop, and then some teachers came, some students came, but also public can do them as well. So if you are interested
Yeah, I'd love to do them with
in
you.
doing it, but it's thanks, Gus, but it's based on numbers. So if they don't get enough people enrolling, then it doesn't happen. But it's I ran one recently and it was so successful. Everybody really loved it, but I haven't heard anything.
They'll keep running them.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, because I've done quite a few workshops at the gallery just in clay, and they'll keep getting them back at various times if they've got a successful one. So
Okay.
yeah.
Mm.
The residency at the high school, how did you manage to snaffle that? Is it run through?
It's a great story. I applied for a teaching position there, visual art teaching position, and I didn't get it. Mostly, I think, because my digital art skills aren't up to scratch. The school's very technology focused, and I've kind of missed that boat really. And I was really disappointed, but then the head of the arts department contacted me to let me know, and then she said, but we would really love you to come in and as a resident artist and work with the kids that way. And that was beautiful. I think that suited me better in a way, because as I've already said, I really like the flexibility of working like that. That's why I love workshops. But then the other thing that came out of that was that I'd formed relationships with the kids, and I think, proved myself in the capacity as an artist who teaches. And so now I'm getting lots of relief teaching work there as well. So those relationships are really well forged now, because the kids saw me in the capacity as a resident artist, and now I come in as their teacher. So there's this beautiful, I really love it. I love it there. I love going there, and the kids know me and know that I know what I'm talking about because they've seen it in action and it's hung in their space, and we've worked together. We're like buddies, art buddies. Does that make sense? Rather than me being a teacher and then being a student.
Yeah, I think that high schools are heading towards more of a sort of collaborative environment rather than a sage on the stage sort of. It's more of I think that they definitely, schools in general, as a high school teacher myself, are looking for, and I think teenagers respond best to an environment where everyone's collaborating together rather than a directed instruction environment.
Yeah, I agree. And the school's really working hard to set up that kind of an environment right through with they're very STEM focused. It would be great if the A was in there and it was STEAM, but
putting an artist in residence in a goldfish bowl like that probably helped.
Yeah. Yes, I think so. I don't know whether they're going to do it again this year. There was talk about getting another artist in, and could I suggest someone, but COVID's kind of made that really, really difficult, I think. So I haven't heard anything. I don't know if they're going to do it again. Would be great if they did, because you can see in that top left photograph, yeah, you're right, it's like a goldfish bowl. The visibility is really high, and the spaces are really open as well, and the students would just be passing through and by me all the time, and that's dropping in. It was a real drop-in centre. Hey miss, what you doing today?
Right.
Yeah, really nice.
Watch a live artist at work.
Yeah,
it's
the
cool.
real McCoy.
Yep. And you're disciplined and you're passionate, and they get to see it firsthand.
Yes, but I'm a bit naughty because I'd say, what do you want to do when you grow up? Blah, 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 blah. And then I'd say, whatever you do, don't be an artist. Avoid it. Don't go there.
That was the message I got too.
Which probably means they will.
Yeah. Cool. We've got one last slide here.
Yep.
Which doesn't seem to be moving. There it is. It's your watercolors.
Yeah.
And these are the ones I saw at the Weedy.
Yes. It's my favourite thing. Watercolor, I mean, not these paintings. My favourite thing is watercolor.
Yeah, I love that idea of it being dangerous.
So many people won't go near it, which is a tragedy, and they won't go near it for that reason. There's no going back with it. I mean, there are some watercolor artists who do manipulate it and keep working with it and try to control it and make it do what they want. But for me, and this is judgmental, but I look at that work and it seems lifeless to me. I think it's important with any medium to work with its strengths, not try and make it do something that it's not meant to do. And that's particularly for watercolor, I reckon. That's my philosophy around it anyway. That's how I work with it. And the watercolor artists who I really, really love, they work with it like that as well. And these are around the theme of our ocean swimming. So it's a perfect medium for that, because it's wet, it's water. And the way I work with it, it looks wet when it's dry. And it has the marks have energy locked into it. It's thrashing about. That's how I see it.
And that blue on the left-hand one for me.
Yeah.
That's the semaphore, because you guys swim near the semaphore jetty, don't you?
No, we go from Grange and we swim towards Henley Jetty.
I think that particular blue, it's very seaweedy there.
Yes.
And that blue, you've captured the colour of that area.
Thanks, Nikki.
Well, I'm a bit of an ocean swimmer myself, but I swim in the shark net in Port Lincoln.
Oh.
So the idea of being out in the open ocean, that's wild.
Yeah, we've had our moments. Simone and I saw two sharks last was it? Or maybe it was early this year. It was just before we had our show at the Wheatie. We and I've never seen a shark. I mean, I've been a surf lifesaver for years, and we know they're out there. But I'd never actually seen one. But yeah, we swam over the top of. Still don't know. I reckon it might have been a Port Jackson. It was sitting on the bottom of it was sitting on the sand with its baby, mother shark, really quite big.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was quite an experience. It wasn't aggressive or anything. It just sat there on the bottom and then slithered away when it sensed that we were there. But yeah, they're out there. The white pointers are out there, and sometimes you'll swim and you'll just be really relaxed and fine, and then other times you'll be swimming and you're going, ooh, you can feel it. You just get this sense.
Yep, that's what they say in Port Lincoln.
Huh?
That's what they say in Port Lincoln, that you can sense the sharks around.
Yes.
I love the I've just seen the title of that. Forgot the baby powder again. Would that be you fighting with your cap?
Yeah, and my hairdresser, she hates me because all my hair is just like it's just split and mangled because I put these caps on and I forget the baby powder and it just rips your hair to shreds.
Well, at least you're not getting into chlorine. I don't think she'd like you.
That's true.
You did that.
That's true.
So we've got a couple of questions to finish.
Okay.
with. So I'm just going to close this. Is there any questions for Sue out there in welcome to the other people that have joined us? We've also put a link for feedback in the chat box, which is very valuable for us. So please follow that up. Any questions that I love being the one that gets to ask the questions as we go along, but is there any others? Might have covered it. Anything else you want to add, Sue?
No, I've probably said
Something
enough.
new, but you talked about lots of new.
What was that?
One
Have
of the
I learned-
questions was, what's something new you've learned?
Yeah, I've learned that I can work three-dimensionally.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
With the paper.
Mm.
Yeah. And that very appropriate for filling a space like that.
Yeah. So nobody wants to know anything?
So I don't want to know
think-
anything
no, think-
specific, but I do want to thank you so much for talking so elaborately, because I've followed your work for several years now, and it was just amazing to hear you talk about all of those different aspects of it. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Donna. I hope I didn't gas bag too much.
Not at all. It was perfect.
Okay.
I just remember how inspired I get by this stuff, and we're like, we're not even an hour in.
Yeah, really enjoyed it, Sue. It was really great.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Thank you. It's your turn now, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think so. I went and got myself a glass of water, so I think I'm ready.
You might need a glass of gin.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I usually wait till like 11 o'clock,
Well, we might
Okay.
wrap you up
Thanks,
then,
Gordon.
Sue.
Pardon?
We might wrap you up then.
Okay.
Thank you so much.